The world outside was still half asleep when Brynlee Lambert pushed her dented cleaning cart across the polished marble floor of the Moore Syndicate headquarters. The time on the wall clock blinked 7:12 a.m. A few hallway lights flickered overhead, making her reflection look exhausted, older than her 28 years. She took a deep breath, gripping her ring of keys with trembling fingers. It wasn't the cold, it was the fear, the kind that never really leaves when you're one mistake away from disappearing. Just get through another day, she whispered to herself. The rent was 3 weeks overdue. Her mother's chemotherapy bills were piling up faster than she could count them. Her 2002 Honda Civic sat in the employee lot with a check engine light that had been on for 6 months, one breakdown away from dying for good. Every morning felt like walking through a minefield, praying she wouldn't step wrong. She stopped in front of a carved wooden door with brass letters that seemed to glow under the dim lights. Holden Moore, Executive Office. The man behind that name was a legend in Chicago's underworld. Sharp suit, sharper instincts, rumored to control half the city's underground economy. Men like him didn't see people like her. To them, she was part of the furniture, invisible, replaceable, forgettable. And maybe that was safer. The invisible can't be blamed. She unlocked the door and slipped inside. The office smelled faintly of cigar smoke, aged leather, and quiet power. 2 stone-faced bodyguards stood in the corners, arms crossed, sunglasses on indoors. They didn't acknowledge her. They never did. She moved mechanically, emptying bins, wiping desks, straightening chairs, her mind drifting to her mother's overdue prescription refill. Guilt pressed heavy on her chest. Then something unusual caught her eye. A thick manila folder lay open on the CEO's desk, pages slightly fanned like fallen cards. In bold letters, the first line read, "Authorization for termination, executive finalization required." Her stomach dropped. She glanced at the clock. 7:28 a.m. Nobody would arrive before 8:30. She shouldn't look. It wasn't her business. But her eyes couldn't resist. She leaned closer, pretending to wipe the desk surface. Her heart hammered as she read the next line. Subject of termination, Holden Moore. Her blood ran cold. Holden Moore didn't get executed, he ordered executions. Years of noticing details that others missed kicked in. Her brother Malik had died because nobody questioned forged documents in a loan scam. If someone had paid attention then, he might still be alive. She began scanning the pages, eyes darting across signatures, date stamps, witness blocks. Something was wrong. The signatures on the approval pages were mismatched. Different pen pressures, slightly different angles. The witness lines didn't match the dates. One page was printed in a subtly different ink tone. Barely noticeable, unless you were looking for it. Her pulse spiked. Someone had forged this. Someone wanted Moore dead. And they'd engineered it so perfectly that he would sign his own execution order without realizing it. She checked the scheduled signing time at the bottom. 9 a.m., less than 90 minutes away. Her father's voice echoed from a memory long buried. If someone had told me the papers were wrong, I could have fought back. Brynlee's throat tightened. She knew she should walk away. Invisible people survive longer. But another voice rose inside her, the one that said, "Do something." She pulled out a small notepad from her cleaning apron, her hands shaking as she wrote, "Mr. Moore, please check the witness signatures on page 3 before signing. The dates don't match. The ink on page 5 is different. This document is forged. Someone wants you dead. B." She stuck the note beneath the top page, angled perfectly so it would only be visible when he lifted the first sheet. Then, she straightened the papers exactly as she'd found them and hurried toward the door. At 7:45, she should have clocked out and gone home, but her feet refused to move. Her heart pounded so loudly she could almost hear it echo through the empty hallway. Wait, what time is it where you are right now? Brynlee had less than 90 minutes before Holden Moore would unknowingly sign his own death warrant. You have less than 5 minutes before you forget this story exists. Right now, Carmine Rizzi thinks he's won. He thinks his forgery is perfect. He thinks no one will notice the mismatched signatures, the wrong dates, the different ink tones. He thinks people like Brynlee, and maybe people like you, don't pay attention to details. But you've watched this far. You saw what she saw. You know what's coming at 9:03 a.m. when Carmine walks into that office expecting his boss to be dead. Here's what I need to know before you continue. Where are you watching, listening this right now? On your phone during a break? At your desk, pretending to work? Relaxing at home? Commuting somewhere? And what time is it for you right now? Comment below or click the link to continue, because Carmine's confrontation is coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what Holden Moore does to traitors who underestimate invisible people. The clock is ticking. Carmine is already on his way. And Brynlee is about to discover that saving a Mafia boss's life comes with consequences she never imagined. At 7:58 a.m., the elevator dinged. Holden Moore stepped out, not the powerful kingpin image from the newspapers. Today, he looked weighed down, tired, like a man carrying the weight of betrayal he couldn't yet name. His bodyguards flanked him, tense and alert. He clutched a leather briefcase like a man walking into his own funeral. Brynlee watched from the hallway supply closet, door cracked open just enough to see. Moore entered his office. The bodyguards took their positions by the walls, silent statues in expensive suits. He sat at his desk, opened the folder, stopped. The room seemed to freeze. His eyes narrowed at the small note. He lifted the top page slowly, reading the words she'd written. Suddenly, the man who ruled Chicago's underworld with an iron fist looked shaken. He sat back in his chair, staring at the documents. His jaw clenched, his hands trembled almost imperceptibly. After what felt like an eternity, he stood abruptly. "Which one of you left this?" His voice was cold steel. The bodyguards remained silent, confused. Moore's eyes scanned the room slowly, methodically, until they landed on something in the corner, her cleaning cart, still parked near the window where she'd forgotten it in her panic. "The janitor," he said quietly. "Find her, now." They found Brynlee in the supply closet, hyperventilating. When they brought her into Moore's office, she was certain she was about to die. A dozen scenarios flashed through her mind. Cement shoes, a river, a shallow grave outside the city. "Did you write this?" Moore held up the note. Brynlee nodded, unable to speak. What happened next shocked everyone in the room, even the guards. Moore didn't yell. He didn't threaten. Instead, he exhaled, a long, shaky breath he'd probably been holding for days. "You just saved my life," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Brynlee stared at him, speechless. Moore gestured to the documents. "I've been feeling paranoid for weeks. My underboss, Carmine Rizzi, has been pushing this internal review process. Said the council wanted my signature on new protocols. I was scheduled to sign at 9. He pointed to a signature on page 4. "This handwriting style, it's Carmine's. I know it because I've seen it for 12 years. Brynlee's voice came out small. "He forged the council's approval?" "The entire thing." Moore's face darkened. "He staged a fake vote, claiming I was losing control. The signatures of the neutral families are forged. This," he tapped the document, "was designed to make me authorize my own hit." He turned to Brynlee, studying her with new intensity. "How did you spot it?" Brynlee hesitated. I studied criminology in college, before my brother died, before I couldn't afford to finish." Moore's expression shifted. Recognition, respect, something she'd never seen directed at her before. "You have training in document analysis?" "I did, before the bills became too much, before I ended up here." Moore was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made her blood run cold. Carmine is arriving at 9. I want you here when he does. Why? Because you saw the truth. His eyes were hard now, dangerous. And you're going to help me prove it. At 9:03 a.m., Carmine Reedsy walked into the office with the casual confidence of a man who expected his boss to be dead within hours. He was tall, silver-haired, wearing a tailored Italian suit. His smile was warm, practiced. Holden, good morning. Ready to finalize those protocols? Moore didn't return the smile. He gestured to the folder on his desk. Why don't you explain to me why your handwriting is on a forged execution order with my name on it? Carmine's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. Then it returned, wider. What are you talking about? Moore lifted the documents. Page 3, witness signature. That's your style, the way you loop the R in Rizzy. Holden, you're being paranoid. And page 5, Brynlee stepped forward, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. The ink tone is different. It was printed on a different machine. The date stamp shows September 14th, but the witness date says September 12th. The whole thing is a forgery. Carmine's eyes snapped to her, seeing her for the first time. His face twisted with contempt. Who the hell is this? Your cleaning lady? Moore's voice dropped to a deadly calm. She's the only person in this building who didn't betray me. He pressed a button on his desk. Audio began playing through hidden speakers. Recorded phone calls, Carmine's voice unmistakable. Once more signs he's done. The council won't question it if he authorized it himself. We split his territories. Bring in the Colombo family. They'll back us. Make it look clean. Internal discipline. No one will suspect a coup. Carmine's face went white. His hand moved toward his jacket. Don't, Moore said softly. Carmine froze. His hand came up empty. His weapon was gone. One of the bodyguards held up the pistol, expressionless. Moore stood slowly. You should have been more careful with your details, Carmine. She didn't miss them. You're making a mistake, Holden. The only mistake was trusting you. Moore nodded to the guards. They moved forward. Carmine's composure shattered. He lunged toward the desk, screaming, You think you've won? You think this is over? The guards grabbed him, but he kept screaming as they dragged him toward the door. Brynlee! I'll remember that name! You're dead! You hear me? Dead! The door slammed shut. Silence fell. Moore stood by the window, breathing hard. The gravity of what almost happened seemed to hit him all at once. Brynlee stood frozen, Carmine's threat still echoing in her ears. I should go, she whispered. No. Moore turned to face her. You can't. Not anymore. Fear spiked through her. What do you mean? Carmine has family, loyalists. They'll come for you now that you're linked to his downfall. Moore's expression was unreadable. You exposed him. That makes you a target. Brynlee's legs felt weak. I was just trying to help. And you did. You saved my life and probably dozens of others. Moore paused. But that comes with consequences. He walked to his desk, pulled out a folder, and placed it in front of her. I'm offering you a position, internal security analyst for the Moore Syndicate. You'll review all documents that cross my desk. Question anything that doesn't add up. You'll have authority to flag concerns directly to me and only me. Brynlee stared at him. You want me to work for the mob? I want you to help me survive in it, and I'll make sure you and your mother are protected. Full medical coverage, housing, security detail, whatever you need. I'm not qualified. You spotted a professional forgery that would have fooled everyone else in this organization. That's more qualification than anyone else here has. Moore's voice softened slightly. You saved the syndicate today. You saved me. That matters. Brynlee looked around the office, the same space where she'd been invisible for 2 years. But this time, she wasn't looking at it as furniture. She was looking at it as someone who mattered. "What if I say no?" she asked quietly. Moore's expression was honest. "Then I'll arrange protection for you anyway. But, Brynlee, you have a gift. You see things others miss. In my world, that's rarer than gold. And right now, I trust you more than anyone else in this building." She thought of her mother's medical bills, the overdue rent, the constant fear. And then she thought of Malik, who died because no one spoke up. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I need one thing. Name it. If I ever see something wrong, even if it involves you, I need to be able to say it without fear." Moore studied her for a long moment, then he extended his hand. "Deal." She shook it. 3 days later, Brynlee sat in her new office, a small but private space down the hall from Moore's. She was reviewing a shipment manifest when her door opened without warning. A woman walked in, elegant, dangerous-looking, with sharp eyes and a colder smile than Carmine ever had. "You must be the famous janitor," the woman said. Brynlee's hand moved toward the panic button Moore had installed under her desk. "Relax. I'm not here to hurt you." The woman sat down uninvited. "My name is Victoria Rizzi, Carmine's sister." Brynlee's blood turned to ice. "I came to thank you," Victoria continued, her voice smooth as silk. "Thank me? My brother was an idiot, sloppy, arrogant. He would have destroyed this organization within a year." Victoria leaned forward. "You didn't just save Holden Moore's life. You saved the syndicate, and that benefits me." "I don't understand." "Carmine's territories are being redistributed. I've been given his seat on the council, which means I now have a vested interest in keeping you alive." Brynlee's head spun. "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria stood moving toward the door. Then she paused and looked back. "Because in this world, Brynlee, details matter. You proved that. But here's a detail you should know. Holden Moore isn't the only one watching you now. Others are curious about the janitor who stopped a coup. Some are impressed. Some are threatened." She opened the door. "Watch your back. And keep watching those documents. We need people like you to keep men like us honest." She left. Brynlee sat alone in her office, heart racing, realizing she'd just stepped into a world far more complex and dangerous than she'd ever imagined. But when she looked at the framed photo on her new desk, her mother, smiling, healthy from her latest treatment, she knew she'd made the right choice. 6 months later, Brynlee sat across from Holden Moore in his office, reviewing quarterly financial reports. "Page 12, she said, tapping the document. "This warehouse expense doesn't match the property taxes. Someone's skimming." Moore nodded, making a note. "Good catch. I'll have it investigated." As she stood to leave, Moore spoke again. "Brynlee," she turned. "Thank you for that morning, for staying, for—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "For being someone I can trust." She smiled, small, genuine. "Thank you for seeing me when I was invisible." As she walked back to her office, past guards who now nodded respectfully, past executives who knew her name, she thought about how far she'd come from that terrified janitor pushing a squeaky cart at dawn. She'd stopped being invisible. And in Holden Moore's dangerous world, that was both her greatest strength and her most dangerous vulnerability. But for the first time in years, Brynlee Lambert felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be.